everyone, and welcome to the latest Farm Files episode of our farmer and rancher driven podcast, FP Next, powered by John Deere. I'm one of your co-hosts, Sarah McNaughton, and I'm here with Curt Arns.
Hi, Sarah. Yes, we're powered by John Deere, so for all of your equipment and technology needs, see your local Deere dealer. Well, Sarah, the days are counting down. Farm Progress Show just finished up in Boone. And if anyone was either at the show or listening in on the live stream on Wednesday, they heard from USDA Secretary Vilsack and talking about some fertilizer production issues and things that are being tackled by USDA. So that looked to me like a really good show in Boone this year. And now that means what's up next? Husker Harvest Days. The summer has flown by, and that show is coming up really fast. So this Farm Files episode is part 3 of what we're calling our Farm Show Fever trilogy of episodes covering Farm Progress Show and Husker Harvest Days. So we're just getting into feeding that fever today and recalling some old memories from Husker Harvest Days from years ago. I can go a lot farther back than you, Sarah, but we'll have some fun talking about the farm shows in general, the farm economy, how that relates to the show and attitudes of farmers who are attending, and maybe preview a little bit about what farmers can expect at this year's Husker Harvest Days, September 10th through 12th at Grand Island.
I know you've got me beat in years attending, but this is going to be my 4th year down at Husker Harvest Days, and I'm super excited. I know my first impressions of the show when I first came down there it must have been 21, was just how nice the showgrounds were. Kind of like we've been visiting about with Matt a couple episodes ago. Is just, I'm used to farm shows with like dirt roads and it's always mud holes and divots and all this stuff all over the grounds. But those grounds are so nice and they've got the whole bathrooms and the food and everything. So that was kind of my biggest thing that I noticed. And then just seeing all the new products, and it's so great to just see like the wall to wall crowd of people who come out every year. I know a lot of Nebraskans I talk to choose like an annual family vacation to Grand Island if they're not from the area. So I love Husker Harvest Days.
Yeah, and you don't remember what the grounds were like before when, the water was kind of an issue if it rained and dust was kind of an issue if the wind blew, and give me a day when the wind doesn't blow in Nebraska. So, they've invested millions of dollars, to improve the streets, improve the infrastructure so the site can handle a little more rain. And make it much better for exhibitors and visitors. So it really is, as Matt Youngman said, probably one of the best outdoor show, fields in the country and if not the world. So it's really something special. I can recall the first time I attended, and it was a few years earlier than you. It was back when I was in school and I would ride along with my dad to the show. And at that time, you'd stop by the hospitality tent and there was a Nebraska Farmer booth right inside the tent. And that was the first time I met Don McCabe, who was editor at that time, and Ann Toner, who was a field editor. Don was busy greeting visitors and talking to farmers, and he also had duties in filling water and coffee containers for those who were coming inside that hospitality tent. They also had, back then, a Best Nebraska Farmer cover contest. So you could vote on your favorite cover of the magazine from the past year, which I really thought was a kind of a fun and cool activity. And then after I was married, my wife tagged along. And since working for Farm Progress, each of our kids was allowed to skip one day of school. And we really had to talk their mother into that. But they were allowed to skip a day of school, go along with me to the show, starting with our oldest, Lauren, when she was in 8th grade. And then Ben got to go last year and meet all the editors. And everybody gave him a hard time. For a shy kid, that was a lot of fun, too. So yeah, it's been a part of my life for a really, really long time and something I look forward to every year.
Ben is definitely a little shy, but he was so much fun to have around. And I'm sure that's so much fun to have like your family come with you to the show every year. And also, I love that cover contest idea. Like, what a fun thing to do in the tent while you're just like taking a break and getting out of the sun. But I know Husker Harvest Days is truly a Nebraska show. So, of course, it started with ag businesses from around Grand Island, Hastings, and central Nebraska, and the Ag Institute of Nebraska through the Grand Island Chamber of Commerce. So it really is a Husker event through and through. But, you can see a lot of folks from Kansas, Iowa, the Dakotas, and surrounding states. I know I always get excited when I see vendors or farmers from the Dakotas because, whenever you're out of the Dakotas, you're just excited to see another person, even if it's in Nebraska. So I know I have a little bit of a Fargo, North Dakota accent. And so I get made fun of a little bit by some of those Nebraska guys. They're like, I can tell where you're from. So it's just a great time to see farmers from all over the Great Plains and even beyond. So a lot of people make the trek out to Grand Island for a great reason.
Yeah, talking about the accent. Yeah, if you're in Nebraska, you don't have an accent, but everybody else does, right? Depending on where they're from.
Right.
So, after attending several Husker Harvest Days now, and you look forward to it, what do you think the value of attending, a farm show like that is for farmers for the Great Plains, especially at Husker? I mean, it could be the irrigation equipment, which is really front and center. Could be the cattle focus. What is on your mind? I guess. What do you think about that?
It's kind of repeating what we've said over this past few episodes, but there really is no better place to see all the new tech and equipment all in one place, whether you're looking to buy something new for your operation or if you're just looking for fun. But I kind of mentioned before, but one of the first things I noticed about Husker Harvest Days is it's just a family tradition for a lot of the farmers I visit with, just like having turkey at Thanksgiving. They go to Husker Harvest Days every year. And that just makes it such a cool show environment because it always just feels like a big family reunion. Everyone's always welcoming and excited to see things and excited to be there. And but after that little tangent, Curt, about everybody coming back from Nebraska, there's a ton of great things to see and do at the show. We've got the beef building this year, which I'm personally very excited to sit on some of those sessions, and also the new cover crop field demos and plots are a big ad that I'm excited to see this year. But Curt, I know it's in Nebraska, and you made that whole big show program for your magazine. What are some of the big things you're looking forward to this year?
All of the things that you said are really big. The cover crop thing is a big deal, I think, and will have a lot of interest. But to me, one of the things is kind of recognizing that the farm economy is really cyclical, up and down, and there are hard times, at times. And the complimentary tickets this year are kind of a big deal, I think. Farm Progress, all of us as editors across the country, because we're so closely united with farmers and ranchers, I mean, we understand the economic struggles on farms right now, high input costs, low commodity prices. I mean, the cattle market is good, but it's still very uncertain and volatile. Weather challenges. Gee, have we had any weather challenges this year? Yes, all over the place. We all know about this. So being able to receive complimentary tickets to the show by registering online first, I mean, it's a small thing, but it can be a big help for folks who want to attend. It's a very little thing, but every little thing helps. And, just to review the process, if you're at home, look to huskerharvestdays.com, click on the Register Now button. So on the ticket website, you can click Register here. So using the drop-down menu, select how many complimentary admission tickets you want, along with any student tickets, then click Next. Enter a few data points like your name, email, farm information. At the bottom of the page, select I acknowledge and accept the privacy policy statement, and then click Checkout. Confirm your information, accept the terms and conditions, and then press Submit Order. You will then receive a confirmation email with your digital tickets. So you can print off the ticket confirmation PDF at home or just save the QR code on your smartphone or to your Apple or Google Wallet. Then when you want to go to the show, walk up to any gate, scan the QR code, and your badge will print. So you attach the badge to a free lanyard that everyone's going to get, and you're good to go. It may sound like kind of a long process with me explaining it as I go through it here, but if you've attended any sporting event, entertainment events lately, it's just pretty intuitive about how it works. And folks at the show are going to guide you through it. Several thousand have already registered for their complimentary admission tickets for Husker. And so you can too. It's really easy and it's complimentary. So, I would sure encourage those who are going to attend to get on that ahead of time.
Yeah, that's definitely something to take advantage of this year at the show. And also anymore, I feel like everything's on our phones. Like I know even I went to
Mm-hmm.
a Kansas City Royals game and it was just on my phone and you just like download it, get the QR code and you're good to go. So anymore that whole system is pretty slick and those farm show staff are fantastic at helping people through it. And so also the link for those complimentary tickets is in the show notes. So be sure you get those tickets before the show. And as our show manager, Matt Youngman, who was on our podcast a few weeks ago, explains, that badge and lanyard are your admission pass, so you can go in and out of the gate for any or all 3 days of the show with it. Plus, if you don't want to register in advance, the entry fee into the show is $25, so it's not that different from other years. Students aged 13 to 17 are $10 at the gate, and you'll also see a lot of FFA students and other youth who are going to be admitted free by donating 5 non-perishable food items to the food drive, and anyone 12 years and under is free. So, and those FFA donations amounted to about 15,000 pounds, which is 7.5 tons of food last year, making it the largest food drive in central Nebraska every single year. And those FFA members come in such droves to Husker Harvest Days that it is considered the second largest gathering, only after state convention in April, of FFA members in Nebraska every year. And that's not counting the FFA members coming from Kansas and other states.
You bet. We see a lot of Kansas FFA kids and FFAers from all over, including surrounding states, along with those Nebraska kids. So it's great. And look what the FFA members do. 7.5 tons of food to a food pantry is a big deal. And so we sure appreciate that. And so does the food bank, in central Nebraska. So it's really a big deal. So the admission at Husker Harvest Days is a big change this year, with a great opportunity to attend the show and save a little cash. And we've talked a little bit about the new beef building and their programs there that go along with, Doc Joe and the cattle shoot demos that have always been really popular. Dr. Joe can tell a lot of great stories, including about that first year they had live cattle handling at the show, and a steer got a little wild and nearly tipped over the chute and came through the cattle panels. So today we have a lot more safety precautions around cattle handling demos these days. And Doc Joe, he just loves picking on the guys and gals that are running the chutes and moving the calves in. And it's just, something that all the livestock folks and beef folks really look forward to every year.
Yeah, Doc Joe is such a riot, and he keeps audiences entertained. He keeps the demos rolling along, and he's such a fixture in that program. But speaking of programs, the folks at Beef Magazine, which is one of our Farm Progress publications, have quite a program this year, allowing you to get into the details regarding beef cattle markets and a ton of other topics. Of course, there's the shoot demos, which run twice a day, but there's also demos of an automatic pour-on applicator in the beef showcase, speakers sharing on hot topics such as cattle genetics for the future, and kind of we'd already talked about where the cattle market is headed, and how to combine tradition and innovation on your ranch. So I'm going to be sitting in on some of those sessions for sure.
Yeah, and the beef building isn't the only place you're going to find some programs on the showgrounds. If you want to stop by the hospitality tent this year, you can learn about grain and cattle markets, federal farm policy, regenerative ag, which is a really big deal, farm transitions, which is always, every time we have a farm transition session, it's really well attended because there's just it's a complex thing. And these sessions really help folks through it, along with ag diversification. But wait, that's not all. If you're attending Husker on Tuesday, be sure to take your rest and stop by the hospitality tent stage around 2:15, because you and I, Sarah, will be recording our FP Next podcast talking about maintaining farm income during economic challenges. And we'll have a couple of special guests on stage with us that day, right?
Yes, we are going to have Jenna Oshner and Mary Pat Sass, who are podcasters with Beyond the Crops, recording with us that day, and we are so excited to have them with us. They just hit up the Farm Progress Show over in Iowa, and now they're heading for Husker Harvest Days coming up. I'm super excited to record with them live, and also it'll be a great and key conversation for this year's farm economy.
Right. We're looking forward to recording at Husker. We've never done that before, but if you're on hand on Wednesday, you can stop by around 1 for the Nebraska Farmer Hour. So this year, that's going to feature Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen and Nebraska Department of Ag Director Sherry Vinton on stage. So Governor Pillen's fresh off the completion of the recent special legislative session in Nebraska that set out to tackle property tax relief. So we'll be asking the governor about that and what his policy direction is for the next state legislative session in 2025. And then we're going to relinquish the stage to the state FFA officers from Nebraska, who will be asking Governor Pillen and Director Vinton about the future of ag and their thoughts on how to encourage young producers and ag professionals. So, it should be a great hour of programming that you won't want to miss. Following the Nebraska Farmer Hour, Another of our favorites every year, the Nebraska Association of Natural Resources Districts, will announce their Hall of Fame honorees for 2024, which will include a director, a volunteer, and another supporter of the NRD system in Nebraska. So these are, things that we've had on stage for many, many years. Folks really look forward to them. So if you're, on the grounds on Wednesday, be sure and stop by and take in these events.
Yeah, and I know one of the best attended events usually in that tent is the Farm Transition Workshop, which is hosted by University of Nebraska economist, offering all the tips for how to smoothly transition the farm business from one generation to the next.
Yep. So these are all good programs to look forward to. So Sarah, now that you've been coming to Husker for a while now, what are your, if you have top tips? So what are some things that some folks coming to Husker this year should know before they go?
Kurt, really, I think just come ready to learn and have an open mind. Some of the products you're going to see at the grounds are the latest and greatest, and they might be a little different than things that are around the farm. Yes, the salesmen probably have a pitch for you mostly, but they are actually very knowledgeable on the products and are excited to show off the new tech to help make your farm more profitable. They've got a lot of great stuff out there. So just kind of take it with a grain of salt and see maybe if this would be a good fit for your operation. And then on a personal note, wear comfortable closed-toed shoes. I know I saw somebody in sandals trying to walk through for the cornfield demos, and she did not look like she was having a good time. Stay hydrated by more than just visiting the beer tent, of course. And if it's a hot, sunny day at the show, make sure you apply sunscreen as well, as directed to ward off sunburn and potentially skin cancer down the line. So, a couple things there, but really just come ready to learn and have a good time while you're there.
Yeah, and it's an outdoor farm show, so farmers and ranchers know how to dress accordingly and dress for the weather. So we'll see what the weather provides. I know we've all been praying for good weather for a year now, and so hopefully, last year the weather was really nice at Husker, and so we hope that that happens again. Yeah, I agree with all of those tips. I would add, be sure to hit the corn harvest demos. Like always, the haying demos, which include swathing, raking, and baling, along with what we had talked about earlier, the cover crop demonstration plots. Now, these are located just not that far from the beef building. And the cover crop plots are covering two different planting dates, one in July and one at a later date. And they offer a view of multiple species of cover crops and a bunch of popular mixtures, thanks to the folks at Green Cover out of Bladen, Nebraska. So you just can't miss this. It's just another thing to put on your list. Another thing to see is the UNL TAPS Crop Skills Challenge, where anyone, a young or a veteran farmer, can try their knowledge on weed ID, water management, pests, crop fertility, lots of hands-on competition events. And there's money involved, so the winners actually get some pretty decent prizes. So that's something to put on your list as well. Another thing most folks don't talk about is how Husker Harvest Days gives back to Nebraska and the community in Hall County. And that means like $5,400 in scholarships each year to Nebraska high schoolers, around $7.5 million in economic returns to Hall County for the show in the form, of hotel room services, food, and so much more. But that's not really all. The show also donates 140,000 in discounted or complimentary exhibit spaces for 50 local exhibitors and 50,000 in donations to more than 20 local nonprofits, along with the food stands, which are operated by local schools, and the property taxes paid by Farm Progress and exhibitors. It's just a really big impact locally. And that's not covering all the generational importance of the show. Like Matt Youngman, who met his wife at Farm Progress Show, I hear every year about couples who were engaged at Husker. They celebrate their birthdays or anniversaries by going to the show. It's really woven into the fabric of a lot of farm families, and there's just a lot of memories made every year.
Speaking of memories, I know one of my favorite memories of Husker Harvest Days in the years I've been coming is all about people. And so when I'm outside the Dakotas, kind of like we were talking about earlier, there's nothing more exciting than being able to find a fellow Dakotan around the farm show, especially down in Nebraska. So I always stop and chat with the ones I find, and I love those conversations, whether they're farmers or exhibitors. Always great conversations being had. And on the Farm Progress side, we always have a great time with our Wild West team. And I seem to remember last year at the end of the second day, we fit 7 people on a golf cart coming back from the media building. I may have been hanging off the side of the golf cart, and everyone was very worried I was going to fall off. But Anything of anything is worth trying to save our feet for the last day, even if it's carpooling on a golf cart. So, and it's always just great to see those crowds of people spanning wall to wall in the aisles, and it's great to see how many people really come out and enjoy the show.
And a lot of times you just meet up with good friends at the show. I mean, it's folks that maybe you only see once a year at Husker. And so it's just a lot of fun. I have to say that for me, the favorites are like the days that my kids have attended with me. Last year, as we said, was so much fun with our shy Ben and all the attention he got from the editorial team. And that was a lot of fun. But I also recall when our son Zach, when he got to go inside a Nebraska National Guard Huey helicopter and he got a tour from a guardsman. That was pretty fun. When Taylor, our daughter Taylor, attended, it was a Thursday and we had been rained out on Wednesday. So it was just tough even getting on the grounds because it was really muddy. This was before all the improvements had been made out at the show site. And that was really memorable, all the mud we had to go through that year. And then our oldest daughter Lauren, she loved sitting in the combines when she came to Husker. All these great memories, but maybe the most memorable was when, before all these parking lot improvements were made and we still had to deal with some mud, I got my old van stuck. And I don't mean it was stuck, I mean it was buried. And after a big downpour at the show, so I had to leave it and dig it out the next day. But editor Don McCabe, he drove by with his pickup and he yelled out the window. He says, jump in, because I'm afraid if I stop, I won't get going again. So he opened the door, I jumped in and got out of there and dug the van out the next day. So that was kind of a day to remember, I guess. I enjoyed going to Husker with my wife. And I would give anything to be able to go to the show one more time with my dad, because those were a lot of fun days that I probably didn't appreciate enough when we were there, but I sure do now. So lots of good memories at Husker.
See, all these great memories are really about the people, right? And of course, we really just touched the surface of our memories and all the things to see and do at Husker Harvest Days. And if you are there and you see us around, please ask us. We will definitely give you some inside tips when we're there. But the big thing we hear farmers say all the time is, why should I attend a big farm show where everything is nice and new and I maybe can't afford anything new these days? What would you say to that, Curt?
Well, back in the days when we were farming full time, I mean, all of our machinery is experienced, I would say. That's probably being pretty kind. And so we couldn't afford any of the new equipment either. And I know that things are relatively tough right now for a lot of folks, but maybe that's all the more reason to take in these farm shows. I mean, you want to be on your A game when things are tough. You have to squeeze the most out of your dollar. So take in some of these educational sessions that are free, and maybe it can help your bottom line. Kick the tires, ask questions of the experts from the university and from engineers of the new tech and machinery. Learn, keep learning. That's how we stay afloat in these tough times. And that's why I used to attend every year when I was farming full time. I couldn't afford anything on the showgrounds, but I learned plenty. And then when I went home, I tried to implement some changes on my farm that hopefully made me more profitable. So it was very worthwhile. Even if you can't afford all the new tech, at least you're really staying on the pulse and kind of knowing what is coming very soon.
And again, I think that's one of the great things about those field demos. So you can just see some new things, maybe glean a little information, take it back to your operation. And the other reason that folks might run into us is we love the opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for reading our magazines. Thank you for listening to our podcast. And thank you to our readers and listeners for getting up every day and producing food for the world. That's who we're all working to support through the farm shows. And really, with all of our content we produce, is just for the farmers and ranchers. Also, a reminder for everyone who's traveling down to Grand Island this year, please drive safe. Don't text and drive, pay attention to speed limit signs, listen to the parking people at the showgrounds, and just make sure you get there safely.
Amen. I mean, no one could have said it better, Sarah. I think that, be safe on your travels, but also what you said about thanking our readers and our listeners is just really important. We wouldn't be here without you, and we hope that what we produce helps you out in some way. As we wrap up this time, remember, folks, Husker Harvest Days is set for Grand Island, Nebraska, September 10th through the 12th. And be sure to go online at huskerharvestdays.com. Register to receive your complimentary admission tickets. And if you want to be sure not to miss any of our top stories or farm show news, sign up for our Farm Progress text blasts, which bring the hot stories right to your inbox.
You can sign up for those text alerts by texting FARM, FARM, to 20505. Be sure to follow Farm Progress on social media to stay up to date with ag news and more, and check out the digital edition of your regional publication at farmprogress.com. Tune into our next episode of FP Next, which is going to be the actual final in our farm show series, for a look back at new products unveiled recently at the farm shows and how these might impact your operation.
Yes, we're really looking forward to that. Still talking about the shows and coming up with some of our favorites on the new product side. So we have something to look forward to there.
Absolutely. Follow along with FP Next by listening and subscribing on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube or at Farm Progress Online. And be sure to leave us a review if you enjoy the show.
5 stars or nothing.
Absolutely. And remember, if it's agriculture, your friends at Farm Progress have you covered. Here's wishing you high yields and good weather. We'll see you next time.